Hello, and welcome to the first edition of the Horse Racing Sports 2.0 podcast and YouTube show. I'm Ace. I got my friend Alex with me. Say hello, Alex.
Hi guys, thanks for joining
And
us.
we're going to be bringing you some stakes action from the U.S. this weekend, as well as previewing some of the bigger races at Royal Ascot this weekend. So I think we should just jump straight in. We're going to go to Monmouth Park, race 10 this Saturday, the Salvatore Mile Stakes Grade 3. Only three graded stakes races this weekend in the U.S. And I don't know about you, Alex, but I'm going to take someone who's coming off the bench from quite a while, hasn't raced this year. Who would you like in this race?
I actually think this is kind of a tricky one to kind of call. I did like spin off a little bit, but dropping back in trip a little bit is a bit of a concern for me. I'm half tempted to just stick with Basin and just scratch the last run.
Basin, huh?
Yeah, I'm willing to give that the Churchill Down Stakes just a miss, and then just go off his form from before then, where he was his second in the Sir Shackleton, first sorry in the Sir Shackleton, second in the Amsterdam, and I think that's pretty decent coming into that.
I understand. I'm with you. It's always hard for me to toss the last race, but you're right. He was running in a grade 1, didn't perform up to his standards, and he's kind of with basically the group that he fits with, I believe, from a graded stakes company, grade 3. I'm going to go to the outside. I like Pirates Punch, the 10 horse. I know he hasn't raced since the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, sit at Keeneland for the Breeders' Cup, but in all honesty, I'm going to toss that one as well. He lost to Nick's Go and Jesus' team, two very great horses, but before that, won this race last year, impressively by two lengths, and then, in all honesty, a stakes win before that one. I think first off the bench, Robbie Alvarado comes up and wins this one, and goes back to back. But we will see this weekend.
I,
What's
I, I would
interesting about
I
Go
also
ahead.
wouldn't be against that because I also had him written down on this
Mhm.
one, and it's pretty rich saying that I can forgive the last run for
Mhm.
Basin, but I'm not sure I could do the same with Pirates Bunch. The other one that I had was Bobby's Charge, but again, it's a very quick turnaround that top this time from the Steve Sexton, and I'm not sure I could. I just think Basin is the one which I can support the most. I think,
Mhm.
or I can trust. I guess.
All right. Well, we got two picks here. We got Bazin and we got Pirates Punch. Let's see who gets it done on Saturday. What's interesting about Monmouth Park this meet is obviously their new rules with the riding crop, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this. You can only use the whip in extreme circumstances. Otherwise, it's all handwritten. Could you imagine such a thing across every racetrack in the country?
I could not imagine that being the case. I'd be interested to see how the jockeys feel about this and
The
whether.
jockeys, a lot of them started and said that they weren't going to come, that they were going to protest. Some of the bigger names who usually don't come to Monmouth, unless, of course, there's some big stakes races, have opted out. But realistically, a few of those who were on the fence realized that, well, there's a lot of money to be had, so they might try it and see how it goes. But quite interesting. And handle actually has been quite down, 25% last Sunday. So it seems like the bettors are also saying maybe this isn't the best racing for me. So it's interesting to see if they change the rules going into maybe next year's meet if this one doesn't work out so well.
Yeah, you couldn't imagine them sticking with this if the top names aren't going there, and
Correct.
and if they're not going, they're going to just reverse it.
No, I am with you. I am with you. So, I think we've covered enough of the Monmouth for today. Let's get to what I would say is probably the biggest race of the weekend here. It's the Old Forester Mint Julep Stakes. Going to be at Churchill Downs. $150,000 purse, and we actually have 11 horses going the mile and a 16th. And I don't know about you, but I got a taste of chalk in my mouth because I really like the favorite. Who do you like?
Yeah, Juliet Foxtrot for me, I think is probably the certainty of the graded meetings this week. The form is just too strong. Like the rest of the horses in it, that there's questions. There's not so many questions about Juliet Foxtrot, and I think that the Grade One, the Jenny Wiley last time, I think that that's good form coming into this.
I couldn't pick against Juliet Foxtrot, the two. I mean, Brad Cox trains. He's winning. He just won the Belmont. He's winning at 28% for the meet. You get Tyler Gaffalione, who's not on the rail, so he can actually win. He's winning at 20% for the meet. And yeah, this back-to-back grade one victories, it's really hard to pick against. I don't always like picking a front runner, especially in turf racing, because you always got those horses that are coming from the clouds. But looking at the rest of this field, I'm saying to myself, no one has the class and no one has the speed to stick with Juliet Foxtrot.
No, no, it is far too classy for this outfit. The only one that kind of interests me a little bit is Minted, but that's more of like I'm intrigued to see how it performs with this kind of caliber of horse. But as for a winner, like you can't look past the favourite.
Well, I do like the four Vespa underneath play. I don't know what it is, but you ship a horse up from Brazil, which I mean, I can't imagine what it costs to do that. And then comes from behind, wins as a long shot in a $108,000 allowance race. I don't know. I'm just saying, maybe from an underneath standpoint, Vespa has a chance. Joe Talamo. I'm just saying, no one's touching Juliet Foxtrot today. Um, we do have one more graded stakes this weekend. It's the Affirmed Stakes, and that is going to be on Sunday. The full lineup isn't out yet, but I believe the Chosen Vron is the only horse that's going to be competing in this race. It's Santa Anita. It's going to be a small field. Did you see the race any differently?
No, no, we should probably stop agreeing on races, but like, it's 3 from 4. Like again, it's a bit like the last race again. Like he's got the class in this race, and the rest of them are going to try and catch up to him, but they're not going to do it here. Like I can't see it.
Even with the stretch out, even the fact that I very much like Umberto Rispoli. I think he's the second best jockey who's at the meet over in Santa Anita. It's hard for me to go against Flavian Pratt, who's winning at something like 28% on the year at Santa Anita. But if the Chosen runs his B race, I think he sweeps this field. And I'm just interested to see if any Bafferts show up. I'm not sure if you know about all the controversy going on
Yes,
here with.
this would be like a very kind of fitting place to kind of ask the questions, I guess. But
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't understand why he isn't kind of just being hit really, really hard by every track. I know some tracks are kind of like the NYRA have been a bit harsh on him. Churchill Downs have been slightly harsher, but like nothing is really kind of proper punishing him. And I don't think you could, unless you punish him severely, it's gonna keep happening.
The interesting thing about that is from a from an outsider's perspective, if you only follow horse racing on the biggest days, the Kentucky Derby, Preakness, Belmont, he has now been banned for 2 years from running in the Kentucky Derby and so far also in the Belmont Stakes. What's interesting though also is they're banning basically anyone else who works with him. So it's not like he's going to get the best 2-year-old chippers, run them at Santa Anita, and then run them under his assistant trainer's name in Churchill, etc. They are not allowing that at all. What's really tough is a place like Monmouth has just recently came out and said, we welcome Bob Baffert. We welcome his horses here. Um, each state has their own jurisdiction from a racing board perspective. Each state gets to set their own rules. And Bob made a big mistake when he first and foremost came out and blamed cancel culture, talked about possible conspiracy theories when it came to what happened with his horse. He should have done the inventory. He shouldn't have gone on national television and told everyone, hey, I'm not the problem. Well, 2 days later, you had to come out and say, I did give him the cream. Uh, it's going to be really interesting. Santa Anita is his home track. Um, they've actually had very short fields when it comes to dirt racing lately because no one wants to go and challenge his 2-year-olds, his 3-year-olds on the dirt side of things. Rock Your World, who was one of the Derby favorites, he ran on turf in Santa Anita and then went on to win the Santa Anita Derby because they wanted to avoid the Baffert 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds. What other questions did you have?
That was mainly it. To be fair, I was wondering if you possibly thought there should be a more harsher ban. Like we had, it's not the same kind of thing, but it was neglect for horses over in Ireland
Mm-hmm.
with Gordon Elliott, and there was a picture that come up from a fair few years ago, and he's been banned for 12 months. And people still argue that was a lenient ban when he should have been banned for possibly life. So I don't know.
It's
It's not the same kind of thing because it's two different cases. But I think his history of this kind of thing now is at that level where he's neglecting the animals a little bit, if you know what I mean.
correct. And the number of positive tests, even in the last year when he said that he was going to be a part of this of cleaning up the sport, it is suspect. I do want to state though, it's not that he's using any illegal substances. He's using legal substances in jurisdictions where the level is in question. So that's, I think, the tough part. He hasn't had too many horses die of freak injuries or, you know what I mean, miscare. Um, and he's kind of the face of the sport over here. People know Bob Baffert. I, as Medina Spirit crossed the finish line, said to myself, this guy is a wizard. I don't understand it. I did not have this horse on Derby Day. I didn't see it. But then, sure enough, a week later, this pops up. It's really tough. And I know Congress is working on this, but there's a ton of things going on over here. Uh, I, I know they're working on trying to get a bill and trying to get everything centralized, but there's too many powerful groups. You have Churchill Downs, who owns several race courses over here. You have the Stronach Group, who owns the rest of them. But you also have these independent tracks that aren't owned and operated by some of the bigger players who they're gonna want they're gonna want publicity, even if it's
Mm.
bad publicity. They're gonna want good horse racing, and for some of them, they live and die by their big racing weekends, their big meets, right? So it's really tough to say, oh yes, I'm going to turn away all of this press, all these people tuning in for interest when realistically he's been the face of the sport for quite a while now.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So
So,
let's hop over the pond. Let's go over to Royal Ascot. So tell us a little bit about the Royal Ascot meet and some of the horses that you're looking at.
so the Royal Ascot, I mean, is the biggest flat festival in the UK, and Wesley Ward is back over again, and he has got a couple of decent chances in a couple of good races. To be fair, he's got a runner in the Coventry Stakes, which is the first race or one of the first races on Tuesday in Coffee Maker.
Hmm.
It is the one thing that's kind of hung over Ward at Ascot. He's never won at the track over 6 furlongs, and I think this is kind of why this horse is kind of entered in this race, because I think he probably should maybe go slightly less,
Hmm.
but he is the main. I think he's the favourite in the betting at the minute. He ticks a lot of boxes. The only thing that could be a concern for him on the day is the ground. But yeah, there's not. There's a couple in there that are each way chances or place chances. Like
Hmm.
Dabab is a good one that could have a good chance against him. He's also got Campanelle in the Commonwealth Cup, which is a week tomorrow. It's actually on the Friday, which is a Group 1 over 6 furlongs. Campanelle is a good thing for this race. It's probably his best chance of the
Hmm.
whole week, really. He's 3 from 4. He was a grade woman in the Darley Prix. He won the Queen Mary at Ascot last year, I believe. And he's coming off this after the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf,
Hmm.
which he wasn't ashamed in, to be fair. And going from that back to this, going back in trip is gonna suit him. And there's not a lot else in there which should really cause him a concern. He's got Frankie Dettori on board, and Ascot is Dettori's playground.
Hmm.
His other main chance, or a chance, I guess, is also on Tuesday in the King Stand Stakes, where it's got Maven. He's kind of the opposite from the first horse that I spoke about because the conditions are going to suit. But he's up against Batash, who is like a superstar over the 5 furlongs, which this race is going to be over. He's 12 and 20 in stakes. He won the King Stand last year, as well as the King George Stakes, the Nunthorpe Stakes, and then he was the Cartier Champion Sprinter for last year. I was listening to a preview show last night, and they was talking at length about Batash and an injury that he had over the winter. So it's put that question in the back of your mind now, where maybe, but for me, Batash is the best bet of the Tuesday.
I am with you there, and I've actually gotten to see things opened up here in the spring. I got to see some Wesley Ward 2-year-olds at Keeneland in April, and I mean they take so much money, but man, does he really know how to get a young horse ready. To your point, I saw them running at 4.5 furlongs, at 5 furlongs, and I mean when they win going away, you go, of course they can go longer. 6 furlongs isn't going to be a problem. But something that interesting that I think you mentioned is just the ground, right? So
Yeah,
a little different when you go over across the pond. It rains a lot. The ground gets softer. American horses are usually bred for fast and firm turf. But as you were mentioning, you got the Ireland breds, the English breds. They are used to the soft, wet grass. So can you talk about what it is that makes it so much harder for Americans to ship over and win?
I actually personally think Ward has shown that it's not as difficult as people maybe previously thought it was, because he is getting winners year after year, obviously excluding last year when he couldn't come over.
Hmm.
But he's aiming towards Ascot winners now. I think that goes to show like how high he actually rates the company that he's in at Ascot. So I think they're breeding like British horses now to specifically target races at Ascot. And I don't know if it's going to catch. Maybe you'd know. I don't know if it would catch on with other American trainers because you don't see many others bringing them over. And
I,
I think Ward is like the American king at Ascot. I think he's got 11 winners.
I do think more trainers will be interested. I think it's getting the ownership groups all on board. I mean, it does cost money to ship, and then when they do ship back, they usually sit off a long layoff, so they are missing some races here. I love turf racing. I wish the American public loved turf racing more. I think it's way more exciting. You have horses coming from the clouds. Speed really doesn't always hold. It's a much more interesting race. And as you mentioned, you have some who they go to the Breeders' Cup and they take sixth, but they do it by like a length and a half. That only happens in turf racing. On the dirt, everyone's spread out, etc. I do think if you get ownership interested, if you show them the history and the purses and whatnot, and really kind of talk through, hey, this actually can work. It's not going to inhibit your horse from coming back and shipping back, and you won't miss some of the bigger turf races of the summer. I think it can definitely catch on. And if Wesley Ward continues to have success, it's only going to help people realize that this is possible.
Yeah, yeah. I think that as soon as he keeps winning more and more, owners or potential owners are going to see that and think we want a bit of that.
For sure, for sure. So that is actually all we have for you guys this week. I'm Ace,
I'm Alex.
and we hope to bring you some more guests over the next couple of weeks to talk horse racing on the Sports 2.0 show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.